When you scroll over the short videos and playing game or even watching show, you're technically doing the same thing when you do in school and the classroom. You're receiving new information. But same process that we call learning. Why we absolutely love and even addicted to the first one and absolutely hate the second one. Even then, the second one is way more useful. And it really get me curious and it even make me think, could we even learn useful information as addicted as we using our phone? Right off the bat, I already know people will have two questions in their head. First, people may say, yeah, the answer is easy because, when you're playing game, watching shows, it's not as complicated as you learn, for example, high school algebra. But the answer that scientists find is different. Use a game that I play myself as example, like Dota or League of Legends. You have about 100 characters to pick. Each character have a 5+ skill. Each skill have about 2-3 paragraphs of explanations. Kids reading those skills and learning about them with no problem. Even more, they may not go to sleep at nighttime just to watch how other people play those characters and learning and understand the skill even deeper. But if we move our point of view back to school, when you go to an algebra class in high school, all the concept that you need to know is a 2-page back and forth. Why our kids, or even include you and me, have such a difficulty when you think back to high school? And the second question people in their head probably will be, can we really actually learn any new information through scrolling TikToks and playing game? The answer is also a yes. In the book, How People Learn, that was instructed by American Research Council, people actually find that nowadays, average Joe's knowledge gap to a PhD is not that big. You can hold a normal conversation with a biology PhD about blood pressure. That was not possible before phone was a big thing that everybody have. If we want to learn useful knowledge, be as addicted as we to our phone, we really need to understand what happened or what's the root problem that separates gaming and school. What we're doing in school is called instructional learning. What do you mean? Basically, they will tell you a concept, they will tell you the description of it, and you gotta do a lot of test examples. But that process is not as intuitive to us as a human because we only develop languages for the past 10,000 years. We have an even more natural animal-like learning process. It's called induction learning. What does it mean? It's basically use a gaming that I mentioned as an example. We don't really read the description of all the skills or certain character has. All you do is you press on different buttons to see what they done and what's the feedback of it. Or the first time you try to learn how to use a remote, you don't really read the description of how to use a remote. You just press the button to test it out. What did this button do? What did that button do? The best way in induction learning is like playing poker. Let's just play around with ignorance and we will figure out on the way. But you may say, why can't we use induction learning in school? So everybody going to school like they're watching TV show, like they're watching a movie or playing game is as fun, as exciting as this is. Because the main problem of induction learning is because that is the origins of ignorance. One of the biggest problems of induction learning is this learning process happens subconsciously. Just like you cannot control your heartbeat, you cannot control what did you learn. Within the same literature that you read, Hemingway for example, some people will think, yes, 5 is destiny, put effort in, that's how you get to succeed. But some people may draw the conclusion after reading this piece of literature that life is not worth it. I may as well just give up my life. And that's not even the worst when I mean ignorance. The biggest problem of induction learning is, for example, I saw this person who support A parties. He is very ignorant and argumentative. and I saw another person supporting the same A party, also really more argumentative. So I subconsciously draw a conclusion that everybody who support this party are ignorant, argumentative, and just terrible. Let's not talk to them. They're terrible persons. That is what basically happened every single day on our internet. All the fights, debates, and the hate between people. Side A think side B is ignorant and stupid. Side B think side A is ignorant and stupid. It's because when this information flow to our brain through internet in an induction way, we subconsciously forming a knowledge or biased. When I research to this point, I actually find such big dilemma. You either learn a correct thing that is super boring, or you learn not boringly and be ignorant. And which one should you choose? But when I research even deeper, what does it mean learning? I realized there is a clear way out that we don't have to choose either. You don't have to feel bored or choose to be ignorant. And of course, we're gonna go even deeper. Please stay with me. So when we talk about learning, what are we doing essentially? Is use a simpler term, we're trying to find a pattern within the past experience. So when we encounter a new situation that we never encounter, we can utilize the pattern that we find to cope the new situation. Just like you don't have to remember everything you learn in school. You can forget about all of them as long as you can solve all the problems that your boss gave it to you. Or in another example, when you learn how to swim, when you jump into the water, you don't really need to remember how you learn swimming step by step, your hand, your foot. As long as you can float and going forward, you're all set. And of course, that's a really short version of what learning are. In future, we may talk about what learning are even more, but so far, that's good enough. So within this process, what is the role of instructional learning? Instructional learning is basically to draw a boundary for you. When you learn subconsciously, they don't fall off the boundary for too much. Use an example to demonstrate what's the purpose of instructional learning. It's basically like when you think about paint by number compared to you paint some object by yourself while you don't know how to paint. When there's a boundary, all you need to do is put the color on it. You wouldn't be too far off. Maybe you alter the boundary a little bit, but not that much. But when you come to paint some object that while you don't know how to paint, you may paint up a really screwed up picture that nobody recognizes what that is. And that's basically what happened when you don't have a concept, a description, and instructions when you learn online. But so how can we solve the problem that instructional learning is too boring? The answer is even more fairly easy. It's don't start with instructional learning. When you play a game, your first game is never that I want to ace the goal in the shortest time. Your game is always start with how can I have fun with it? When you really have a lot of interest, lots of fun within the field, and you want to have a step-up game, have it become even better, a mundane stuff is too boring for you, that's the time to introduce instructional learning. For example, I'm really interested in reading nonfiction. In the beginning, while learning psychology, I'm not like a normal psychology major student. They're reading from proper history of it, who is the first one brought up this idea, and this is the philosopher who brought this idea, and this is how the experiment conduct. I didn't go through that process. Those is instructional. On the other hand, I started reading some popular book like Malcolm Gladwell. He introduced one after one fascinating examples and stories that really draw me into the fun part of it, or even how to convince other people and why people done certain bizarre thing, or why some people are more ignorant than others. Those topic is like me playing a game as a test run. Even then, I'm not that familiar with this character yet. When I realize majority is not fun enough, that's the time I start reading almost textbook to step up my game, to learn and understand deeper. Then I can enjoy even bigger of the fun. Just like when you're good at certain game, certain sports, that's the real fun started on the higher level. But this will be all for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking to them. My name is Paul. I see you next time. Bye.